Let's
get into it.
Let's dive in, guys. Okay. So we're gonna start with the BBRA.
Oh boy, let's get that one.
Buyer Brokers Representative Agreement.
Yep.
Exclusive right to represent.
Yep.
So Rob, this is your baby. So I'm just
so
gonna go ahead.
this form has morphed 10 different times, several different revisions.
Holy mackerel.
We looked at several different aspects of the buyer brokerage agreement, the BBA currently that we have. We ended up looking at a lot of states west of the Mississippi on what they were having, what they incorporated, some 2-page, some 10-page. We were at 9 pages. We incorporated it down as best as we could.
So this is the new form that we have to now give to our buyers when we show them a home.
Correct.
Okay, so let's just reiterate that.
So,
it's recommended.
So it's recommended in the settlement statement. That's part of the settlement to use the BBA or BBRA. It's not a state law. There are other states around the country that have it as a state law, very similar to like a duties owed. But what we did here is we kind of incorporated quite a few of these things, but we also not only made it a length or time specific, we made it property specific.
Yes, we did.
Which is really super important to that one buyer that wants to see the 123 Mockingbird Lane, that doesn't know you from Adam. You introduce them to the 123 Mockingbird Lane and the BBRA. And then once you build a relationship with these guys and they're comfortable working with you and you're comfortable working with them, I mean, we have a choice as well, then you could switch it to a time specific, or if you have 5 properties to show them, you have the ability to add 5 properties onto this as well.
And this is 5 pages, not 9 anymore.
Correct. So we consolidated that and we're in the process. And like I said, this BBRA is going to be a moving target. This is going to be one of the forms that I think is going to morph into different scenarios based on the brokerage and their buyer specific. The most important forms for us as an association is a listing agreement and a purchase agreement, which we'll talk about here in a few minutes. But the buyer brokerage agreement, this 5 pages, is giving a broker a framework.
Absolutely.
Now, there are some brokers out there that are additional terms into the current BBA. That's fine. That's between the brokerage and the buyer. You can write it on a BevNap. I don't care how you do it, but this is the framework that we decided as a PAG that's best for our members. Whatever the practices of that broker is comfortable with and being compliant with the settlement agreement and providing a BBA or a BBRA to a specific buyer, and it's broker friendly and it's agents of that brokerage friendly in the best way that they could describe it. If they're intimidated by a 5-page or a 7-page and they want to condense it to a 1 or 2, they're welcome to do whatever they want as long as it's binding with them and their specific buyer. We as an association will never talk business practices with other brokerages. Just can't. It's going to be up to their framework, knowing that we put out the best product as an association for their individual brokerages.
I think, oh man, whew, this baby. And I mean, I have to give a major shout out to Demi and Chad, who were both on this settlement PAG, as well as my forms committee in general. They really got nitty gritty into this with me, and we really went through and brought it to our PAG as well to go back and forth and get different things.
Let's talk about, Lexy, also how you were working on other forms and you just stopped and just focused on these.
Yeah, I think
you were working on other things and we were like, stop. Right?
And I mean, I will say this because yes, I get the emails, the text messages, the calls about other forms, but sometimes things have to take priority and there does have to be a pause. And for me, like that was a frustrating point that we have spoken about because unfortunately had to kind of slam on the brakes with other things because this became the priority for members and to make us, you know, a strong place to practice as realtors and real estate agents and make sure that we're ahead of the curve and that, you know, we're not a moving target for certain entities and giving ourselves problems. But, you know, this form, there was a lot that went into this because per the settlement, there needed to be a binding representation agreement, which is why the name of the form even changed because before it was obviously a buyer brokerage agreement, and per the settlement and a lot of, you know, legal advisors that we spoke to, the word representation was crucial and it was necessary. And there are other associations that already call it a buyer representation agreement. So we kind of blended our old with the new. This is practically a new form. We definitely took the framework of our current form and we took note of other associations across the country and what we felt they did well and what we did well and kind of tried to make a a very synergistic blend that would represent everything while enforcing the settlement, which is why we also added the property specific section. Because I think that was something that a lot of people were like, okay, well, what happens if somebody calls me on even my own listing, or somebody calls me on this one property and they only want to see this? Okay, well then they're seeing this and that's where it ends. And if you want to execute a new document, this kind of allows all of that to be encompassed on one thing, whether it's one property. And it says here, attach additional sheet if necessary.
Yeah.
So if you get a new client that comes to you and wants to see these 7 properties while they're in town, only for this day or this weekend, this document will allow you to do that.
And we did that because of the people complaining. They're like, listen, maybe some agents buy leads, and a person that doesn't know myself, doesn't want to commit to, just like you guys were saying, a whole, now I'm your realtor. I'm only your realtor for these transactions, for these homes, actually.
Absolutely. And I think the other thing about this is we definitely added a new section regarding criteria. When you build a new relationship, it's what's your timeline? What are you looking for? What are your needs? We have that area so we can set, you told me in writing what it is that you're looking for in a home. And it really helps set the expectations that you as a client or customer have of myself as your agent and or broker, and the expectations I can have from you regarding communication and different things. And though, like Rob said, this will kind of be a moving target, and some companies will use their own forms. Sure. Additional forms I'm sure will be forthcoming. I think this is a great start. And I think as people read through it, I think people are going to be fairly happy with the changes.
You guys, I need you to go to page 2.
Okay.
I mean, I know you guys know by heart, but look at this page 2, A, B, C, and D. I mean, you got C, retainer fee, and D, hourly rate. You want to touch up with that?
Go ahead, Lex. You got it.
Yeah, so we get this question a lot. I think as brokers, and we up to the forms a lot. Why don't we have a retainer fee agreement? Why isn't there that kind of form out there? And I've had a lot of people, even my own licensees, ask me a lot about that. We wanted to add it here because whether, some people feel like, especially if they are doing something, as far as, maybe I'm assisting somebody in finding a rental property, and different stuff like that. By adding a retainer fee agreement, this specifically cites that it will be non-refundable. You're paying me for my time. And it allows people to kind of create that relationship and to where agents feel protected as well.
And then it has the retainer will or will not be credited against any compensation. I mean, you guys really thought this out to every detail.
Well, and I think that's a big thing. And we know real estate relationships, yes, you get those burning hot leads that, or clients, whether it's family, whether it's an online platform, whether it's a sign call where everything is super fast and you go from, hi, it's nice to meet you, to giving them keys and cashing a check within 30 days. And sometimes I have a client, I love them, 36 months later, still showing them properties, they're out of state. And there's a lot of time that agents invest.
30 days or 3 years?
It depends. And I think the thing is with this is does it have to be used? No, that's why it's a checkbox. You don't like it, don't use it. And if you do want to use it, but you want to say this is going to be what we agree to, but when I help you, it will go towards that, or maybe it'll be a credit towards yourself. Not. You'll be reimbursed. The money will be reimbursed back to you, or not. I think it gives a lot of flexibility, and it addresses something that I don't really think was clearly defined before.
I agree 100%. Yeah, this was a burning question with a lot of the brokers that putting it in, not putting it in. How compliant is it? This buyer brokerage agreement was not only designed by, Lexy, Chad, Demi, the PAG. Myself, Jeff. I mean, a lot of people were involved in this, but the attorneys redlined it and reviewed quite often as well.
Holy mackerel.
On what to add, what not to add. So, this is not just practicing brokers and agents putting together something that kind of looks cool.
Yeah.
Like, we wanted to make sure that, the T's are crossed, the I's are dotted, so it's got teeth. Right.
Yeah.
So we tried to make it as compliant as we possibly could with attorneys' advice on this as well.
Talk to us about the hourly rate.
Oh yeah. So the hourly rate is a different animal that some people are shying away from that we didn't want to put in there. you have to value your time. There's other professions that value their times on an hourly rate as well. You know, you can do the flat fee, or you could do the retainer fee, or you could do the hourly rate. Hey, we're going to go look at 3 properties. I'm valued at X dollars per hour. And you could flip it to a retainer fee as the same way and get a credit. You could do it as the hourly rate. Will or will not be used towards, like if I'm showing properties, it's going to take me 3 hours. I go show a rental, I get, you know, whatever that is. That may cover with the hourly rate, and we're fine.
It's not something you have to use. I think if it's a concern and a question, that's what your brokers and your brokerage managers are for, to discuss, you know, what kind of practice your broker is comfortable with and you're comfortable with. The amount of agents that come to me asking me about a retainer fee agreement, or can I do something hourly, my client, you know, blah, 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 blah. I will say in my experience, a lot of that does come more from agents that predominantly, you know, maybe do buying and selling, but they've got a friend, a family member, you know, the market has shifted a bit, so now they are helping some clients find some rental properties. And sometimes, yes, they are very time heavy.
And you know, when I get phone calls, I mean, what I say is, that's up to your brokerage. Well, you're the president. This is a volunteer position, just like what you guys do is volunteer. But every broker does things differently.
So to piggyback onto the BBRA, this is not to be misconstrued as a money grab as an agent, right? This is like, well, I'm worth X amount of dollars per hour and I'm going to get a quick buck, right? The whole idea of a BBRA is providing value and showing that value.
Disclosure.
Your client's going to interview several different agents, and you know they're going to choose the best one for them. And you know, the cheapest is not always the best, to be perfectly honest with you. But these retainer fees and these hourly rates are not a money grab to make some money over the weekend. Like, this is to provide value for you. Like, I am valued at this, and this is what you're going to get based on the value that I feel I'm worth.
Absolutely.
And let's go. And if you feel it's not in your budget to use that, then that's fine.
And honestly, I've always preached and told everyone, treat your clients like family members, and you'll always be in a good place in real estate. And that's what this is pretty much saying. This is not a money grab. This is showing our value, right?
Yeah, so we don't want to tell you guys too much because we want you to come to the drop-in classes.
I like
that's what
page
we really
3
want.
as well.
That was literally what I was just looking at and just thinking about it, because I think we have the conversation a lot with our sellers right up front about, hey, if, you know, in the event one of my personal clients is interested in your property, would you be comfortable with me representing both sides? And granted, sometimes a lot of them say, yeah, no problem. And then when the situation arises, maybe they feel differently. So that is a moving conversation that has to be readjusted if it becomes necessary. But with buyers, it doesn't necessarily always happen that way. So this form, actually, we put that in there.
Yes or no?
Where it says, like, hey,
love it.
Are you comfortable that if a property that comes up in your search is one of mine, are you comfortable with it? And again, it could be it could be an evolving conversation, but that definitely is something that's there. There's a place here where we put, you know, the best way you want to be communicated with.
And also, you got 4 buyers on this paper when it used to be 2.
Well, and I will say, because obviously we've got a lot to get through, so we'll move on, but we are currently evolving forms to put 4 signatures and 4 initials per side on every form. It is a moving, evolving thing. So some forms currently have 4 signatures and initials, some don't. It's constantly being worked on. But as we create these new forms, it is going to have those 4 places. It's going to give you, especially when you've got people that you're dealing with, multiple investors, multiple family members, and whatnot. It definitely gives us space, for sure.